Welcome to Amazing Business Radio with best-selling author and customer service and business expert, Shep Hyken. Shep will talk with some of the smartest thinkers in business to help make you more successful in your professional and personal life. This is Amazing Business Radio with Shep Hyken.
Hello, everybody. It's Shep Hyken here. We're back with another episode of Amazing Business Radio. I'm excited to bring back Joseph A. Michelli, who is an amazing customer service and experience expert, and also the author of numerous books, including his latest book, All Business is Personal. And that's what we're going to talk about today. This guy is brilliant, and I guarantee you are going to learn something. And he is using a very interesting case study that as you listen to him talk about it, you'll be able to relate it to your business. Before we get into the interview, a quick announcement. If you've got an amazing service story that you want to share, or you've got a question you want to ask about customer service or experience, please reach out to me on any of the social media channels because I'm pretty much everywhere. And if it is a question, use the hashtag AskShep. I'll answer the question right there in the social channel, perhaps on this show or in my newsletter, the Shepherd Letter. And you can subscribe to that by going to hyken.com, HYKEN.com. While you're there, why don't you check out my latest research, all the stats and facts about customer service and experience. And it is free, and you don't even need to give me your email address. Just click on the link and you instantly get it. I know you'll enjoy it. All right, let's jump into this amazing interview with Joseph Michelli. Joseph, welcome back to the show.
Wow, it's a pleasure. You're one of my favorite people in the entire planet. Made my voice go up even.
Well, thank you. And I think you're one of my favorite people and also one of my favorite authors. How many books now?
13, 14. Who counts at some point? Yeah, I think
13,
now.
14. Well,
Yeah.
This one's very intriguing. All Business is Personal. First of all, I love the title, but you have a case study within the book. And by the way, just so everybody knows, and I mentioned a few of the books in the introduction, I mean, you've worked with some of the most iconic, I would say, customer service / experience brands in the world. And I have the luxury of looking over your shoulder because even though most people are listening to this, we're doing it on a video call, and I'm looking at the new book, All Business, the Mercedes book, the Starbucks book. I mean, you have worked, Ritz-Carlton book. You've worked with some of the most amazing brands, and you've not only written about them, you've worked with them as well.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to have that opportunity. And it's, you know how this works, Shep, from a speaking career that you've had where you speak for one group and then that opens a door to some other related group. And the same has been true in this consulting journey of mine and the book writing journey. It's just you get in one door and there's somebody who knows somebody and you're in another door before you know it.
Yep. Well, all right. So we're going to talk about All Business is Personal, the latest book. If you're listening to this episode the day it comes out, you can actually go to Amazon right now and buy the book. By Joseph Michelli, and One Medical is your case study. Now, One Medical, who is that? And this is a really cool model. If you aren't familiar with it, my guess is if you read the book and you don't have a boutique concierge type doctor, you may actually end up subscribing to their app and getting involved. Basically, for lack of a better term, they're like the Amazon of medical. And guess who bought them?
I see what you're doing there, Shep. Yeah.
But I'm going to let you tell the story.
Yeah, I'll tell that story. So, well, it really starts, this whole thing starts with a guy by the name of Tom Lee, who was Harvard trained primary care physician. Then he went on to Stanford to learn some business, got an MBA from Stanford, pretty bright guy, as you might figure. And one of the biggest things for him was asking this question: why do we do these things in healthcare? Like we've always done them. Like, why does every waiting room look like some sterile IKEA? Why is it that why do I have to wait in the reception area and then wait in the exam room? Why do I have to be weighed? Speaking of weight, why do I have to be weighed every single visit I come in unless my weight is a relevant variable or it's an annual physical, right? Like, what is with all of this stuff? And so clearly they redesigned it. And Tom said in the Silicon Valley where he's based out of, let's open one clinic and let's just do it radically different and let's challenge all of this. So the first and foremost thing that he was focused on was, how is it that I could get an appointment without having to call in for one? So let's develop an app that allows whoever interfaces with us to use the app for scheduling purposes. And oh, by
We're
the
we're
way, let's
already
make that
crossing.
app.
Yeah, we're
What's
crossing into the convenience revolution.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
They must have read your book. I think that's really what happened. And then, because I love that book, it's one of my favorite
Thank
books
you.
you've ever written. But so, yeah, that's what they got into. They really said, how do we make this so they don't have to, call in? So the app was available. And then they also thought that app should make it convenient for the provider. So how do we make it so that the provider isn't going home in their jammies and doing notes, right? Like that they're actually able to take care of everything in real click and move format. So the app was proprietary. They developed with all those Silicon Valley technologists, and before you know it, they got an infusion of capital from people who didn't typically invest in these technology companies in healthcare. All of it really started to build on itself, and it got to a point where that access, that convenience, was worth something. And so they decided they'd start charging $89. Now, this is before you could digitally do it. So they just sent an email out to their folks, said, we're going to charge $89 for your fee. And people sent in checks. I mean, that's how
Monthly, quarterly, annually,
annually. It was $89
$89 to
for
get
the
access.
access to what was mostly same day, next day appointments, high technology, ease of access, and just changing the model. So much so that 97% of patients are seen within 3 minutes of their scheduled appointment time. And the provider walks out from the prior patient because they've created buffers into the system so they're not feeling rushed. Walks out from the prior patient, comes out to you, walks you in past that scale that we dread, and you have immediate interaction on time, no extra lag delay, right? And all of this just became so successful that, as you noted, Amazon found $4 billion worth of reason to acquire them about 12, 13 years into their journey.
Wow, $4 billion.
Or billion with B, yeah.
That's phenomenal. And really at the end, the patient slash customer is the one that's benefiting from a minimal amount of an annual subscription to be a part of a network. And that's the important thing, Joseph, is that it's not just in Silicon Valley. It is now nationwide. Is it, and
Yeah, and
maybe
they're
beyond?
Yeah, no, it's nationwide only. It hasn't gone
Okay.
into out of the borders, and it's not in every single city. So that's been a part of what the Amazon opportunity could very well be, is to help this scale faster than they could scale on the kind of money that they had. If you think about the model, they became very successful in San Francisco with their one, and then they created more and more throughout the Bay Area, and then they moved throughout California, and then they moved to another metropolitan area and established a beachhead using a medical center of excellence there in, say, Chicago and Seattle, and they continue to build it mostly in metropolitan areas, not in rural areas. But if you or I are traveling and we're members, and we wanted a same day next day appointment in the city because we just got there and we're not feeling well, we could go in and be seen. If we didn't need to be seen, we could do that treat me now function. They have a whole section on their website of triaging questions. So kind of AI sophisticated, not just uncurated AI, but really well curated AI. So that's asking you all those right questions. So need to know, should I go to an emergency room right now? Or should I do a same day appointment? Or should I have a treat me now appointment? So it allows you to interface with technology to triage the level of care that you require. And then you have right on that same technology, the ability to select that level of care, short of an emergency room, obviously, that level of care and get that treatment as you should.
All right. Now, I want everybody listening to understand that even though we're talking about a specific business, one medical, specifically the healthcare business in the industry, everything that Joseph has shared applies to virtually any business. This doctor slash businessman did is he said, why? Why do we always do this? It's because that's the way it's always been done. Not necessarily like, since it's always been done, why do we have to keep doing it this way?
Yeah.
That's the question he actually asked. And I love that. So business is personal. What we're trying to do is create the intimate relationship that makes it easy for customers to do business with. Now, one of the big themes throughout the book is you're blending technology with humanity. And there's no doubt with AI and all these sophisticated technological advances, some companies are starting to lose the intimate relationship, if you want to call it that, with the customers. And therefore, they're becoming more or less a commodity. Any thoughts about that?
Oh my gosh, like it's about the best you could say it, right? I mean, when it all comes down to AI, it's just, is your AI better than their AI, really? Is your chatbot better than their chatbot? Because I certainly can't find a phone number on your website to get a human, and the chatbot can't even get me to a human, and because there are no humans. We've replaced them with this really cool AI. Look, I am a huge fan, and goodness knows, going back to the convenience revolution, you need to make it easily accessible, and technology does that. And lots of people don't want to opt into humans. So please give us that. The problem is the next step. If it doesn't work, or if I don't want it, or if I really need a human in the moment, sure, have all the technology ready to help them, empower them, make them smarter and faster. But please give me a person who can demonstrate. And I think this is, if I had a viral message from the book, it is that there's a difference between personalization and a personal connection. And so for me, use all the AI in the world to personalize, target, know what I do, what I think, my behaviors, tailor. But when it gets right down to it and I need a personal touch, give me a person who can say, Shep, I'm so glad to see you. It's exciting to see you today. I'm so thankful for this time. There's never been an AI that's really sold me that it really cares.
Yeah. And I have no problem with a company pushing digital first as long as there's a human backup. I mean,
Yeah.
Amazon, for example, if I've got an issue, you go to the website. By the way, this is what amazes me. Our annual research finds year after year that almost 70%, this year it was 68% of customers prefer to use a phone rather than a digital channel. And then there's a small number of customers, it's about 30 some odd percent, that will tell you, and by the way, who makes up that 68%? Primarily baby boomers. 82% say I want to use a phone versus Gen Z. About 51 or 52% say I'll use the phone. But 30 some odd percent of these people say, if you don't at least offer me the digital experience, I'm going to go find someone else that does. Well, there's another group that says, no, I don't want it at all. But here's my point. I think Amazon does it great. And that's who ended up buying One Medical, is that they force you, first of all, you're on the website because you're looking for a phone number. Okay. And that's what most people do. So they're already down a digital path. What are you asking us about? And it's like, okay, this is, I'm calling because I want to, the product came and it was broken. Okay, great. It starts asking you questions about it. And before you know it, they've already offered you the refund. You haven't made the phone call, but you went there to make the phone call. However, if you're not getting what you want, it says if you're not, there's a place to put your phone number in, you put it in, they call you, you don't even call them. They make it easy, right? I mean, I just love that whole idea.
And I'm really still a big fan of their blend of technology and
Yep.
human. I still feel like I can get humans, even though I know they're so tech heavy on the front end. But there are so many other brands where I do not know if there are any humans involved in the manufacturing, processing, and service of my needs, right? And I think, this is the thing, particularly in healthcare, where it has to be human to human. We need to have trust that there is a person who not only cares about us and for us.
Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the experience that these great companies, and specifically One Medical, since it's the feature of your newest book, I want to talk about how they are driving the customer experience to make it better, to get customers to say, in the words of my favorite Austrian philosopher, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who used the words, I'll be back, because that's what we want our customers to say. And we will be back. We're talking with Joseph Michelli, who is an amazing customer service and experience expert, author of many, many books, and the latest one, All Business is Personal, available today. We're coming right back. Don't go away. Shep Hyken here with an offer that won't cost you a cent. You may have heard me talk about my annual customer service and experience research. We've surveyed thousands of customers matching the U.S. Census for age, gender, ethnicity, and geography. And we find out what customers love, hate, and want in a customer experience. What's the number one customer experience that almost every customer desires? What makes them come back? What makes them leave? Why won't they fill out surveys? What do they think of AI? Well, these questions and more are answered in the research. You can download the full report by going to hyken.com and clicking on the research tab at the top. Like I said, it won't cost you a cent, but it may make you or save you thousands and thousands of dollars when you understand your customers' expectations. Again, the website is www.hyken.com.
You're listening to Amazing Business Radio with best-selling author and customer service and business expert, Shep Hyken.
We are back on Amazing Business Radio. We're talking with Joseph Michelli. We're talking about his latest book, All Business is Personal. We're talking about One Medical, the case study behind the book, and it is fascinating. But what I want to jump into now, because you're such an expert on all things related to service and experience, I want to jump into the idea of customer service and repeat business and creating loyalty and referrals. And I know that is a piece of this book, and it's what you're all about. So I'll let you kind of kick off the conversation where you want to start, because I just want to hear words of wisdom coming from your mouth.
I still am convinced that the best way to market is deliver a great experience. I mean, it is the best way to market. You can tell me anything that you claim to do, right? And then I get like a 30-second, actual in vivo experience, maybe on the phone with you. And now I determine that, or I see you in action at a speech, or whatever it might be. That's how people determine whether or not a brand promise is kept and worthy of sharing. And quite frankly, a brand like One Medical is a 90% NPS, or 90 NPS rather, and their retention rates are meteoric. And I think that also
meteoric versus mediocric. Mediocrity.
Yeah, like mediocrity. I hadn't really thought of that distinction. Yeah, and the referral, percentage of new members from referrals is a metric. I think it's a general metric that gets overlooked in business. I have clients of mine that I consult with all the time, and I say, what percentage of your clients come from other clients? Because that's free. That you're not paying per click, you're not paying a marketing acquisition fee for that. So what are you getting? And they set goals. I mean, I really work hard for clients to say, let's get that data, and then let's look at our goals for what you're trying to achieve, and how are we going to hit levers that are likelihood to activate referrals. Because there's one thing to have an NPS. Those of you who are in the space of customer experience, we know the likelihood to recommend question is a great question, but it doesn't really predict whether or not anybody's going to recommend you.
Yeah, they say they would because the experience was so good, but then do they actually do it? Fred Reichheld and I were on a panel, and it was like almost debate with him. I said, don't you want everybody to give a 9 or a 10? And this is what he said. He's the guy that came up with Net Promoter Score, NPS. And he said, doesn't mean anything anymore. What do you mean? He says, a lot of people say they'll recommend, but it's the behavior. Do they actually do it? And you are so right. The metric to pay attention to, the 9 or a 10 or a 90 NPS score versus a 50 or a 60. And by the way, Apple is a 70 something. It's not like everybody's perfect. Here's the interesting thing. It's almost a vanity metric. It makes you feel good that people are happy with you enough to say that, but the system's a little bit gamed. Some people don't leave a negative comment because they're afraid the person's going to get fired or get hurt. And how many times have you been to a car dealership where the person says, please give me a 9 or 10, because if not, my kid's not going to go to college. They'll give me they won't give me my bonus. And, so it's game. But it's
totally game. I mean, if there's performance linked to it, like in that case with a car dealer, or if it's being used as a marketing metric, and many people do use it as a marketing metric, right? Like, let's get the highest NPS we can. It's the same about employee engagement. There are plenty of companies out there who are telling their employees, we need you to drive this up so we can be on this list as a great place to work. Is it a great place to work, or am I worried that if I don't tell you that it's a great place to work, I may not be working here?
Exactly.
I think we get to a point where, what are you using the metrics for? And if you're wanting to do business improvement, then you need to put metrics in front of you that are going to help. I'm a fan of NPS as a general indicator.
Me too.
The relationship health. But I certainly don't think it has any. I mean, I think it has more to do with repeat business than it does referrals. So how do you go from I'm really willing to stay with you to I'm willing to say something positive about you to friends and colleagues? And that is a whole different process, and it requires kind of letting people know up front that I am in a referral business. I let my speaking clients, my consulting clients know I'm in a referral business. I want to earn the referral. I may ask for a referral at the end. But I'm also not going to ask you to tell me anything about myself just for some vanity poll.
Right.
I need to get better, and I need to make you better. And if we're not doing that, then please don't refer me.
Yep. And to your point, the metric should be how many people actually that you're doing business with are you doing business with because of a referral.
Absolutely.
That's a magic number. Can you imagine?
I know Shep Hyken. The Shep Hyken reality is that he does a speech and somebody, contacts him because he did that last speech, right? It is because of what you accomplished for someone's success, that others flock to the opportunity because that person's having a conversation with a cohort of other people who are scheduling and planning meetings in similar companies. And the next thing you know, you're in there. So that's the way it should be. And brands should track that. And One Medical certainly is running on referrals.
So there's the big question is how can any business, not just One Medical, and if you want to share them as an example, that's fine, but how can any business go from transactional, being pretty good at what they do, to becoming a share-worthy experience? Is there
Yeah.
something specific that One Medical is doing that we can all learn from?
Yeah, I don't need to go to One Medical on this one. It is the emotional truth of it all, right? Like it's one thing to transact business and play with the cognitive frontal lobes of a human being where I calculate, oh, all things being equal, it's more positive than it is negative, thus I'm likely to stay. The pain of leaving is greater than the pleasure I get from working with you, so I'm going to stay right there. But when
Yeah,
you get
that's
right
not a
down
reason.
to it, that's all satisfaction cognitive stuff. If you want to get in the limbic system, you got to make them feel something. You got to grab them up by the lapels and say, I'm nurturing you. Or you got to grab them up in the lapels and you can say, I'm making this exciting and fun for you. I'm going to wow and dazzle you, razzle dazzle you. Whatever it's going to be, you need to know what you want them to feel and you need to execute that. It's one thing to do the operational excellence, and then you have to envelop that in an emotional experience that you have designed to ensure at high value touch points, you have a high probability of them leaving with that feeling state.
Yeah. I mean, create the expectation that you know they want and then deliver on the expectation. And by the way, sometimes the expectation is so easy. My doctor, I call and leave a message, and inside an hour, I get a call back. If not from the doctor, from the nurse talking to me about what my situation is. But isn't that what
And you
people
pay a
say?
premium for that, and you're willing to because you don't know what you're going to get if you don't pay that premium,
But
right?
even if you don't have to pay a premium, any business, I talked to somebody the other day and they kept saying, well, you want to wow the customer. I go, I got a problem with that. You can't wow the customer every time. He goes, well, listen to my definition of wow. What's that? Imagine if somebody said, wow, you called me back quickly. That's not over the top, blow me away. That's
Yeah.
like, wow, you did something I'm not used to because nobody calls me back quickly anymore.
Yeah, we talked about heroic wows in the old days in the Ritz-Carlton, where people were throwing themselves under planes to get the satchel back to the guest who'd left it at the hotel. That kind of crazy stuff that's not sustainable. Wonderful stories, but the ones that really do matter is when I remember your name or I remember a preference of yours and that Diet Coke shows up in your room. I mean, it's so trivial in the grand scheme of things, but our expectations have been dumbed down so low that each slight differences between what we expect and what we receive is where
Right.
the wow lives.
Yep.
That's what creates emotional connections.
And speaking of the Ritz, Horst Schultz, who you probably know very well, I've gotten to know a little bit, and he said the difference, if you look at what average is, which is what fine or okay, acceptable is, if all you are is a little bit better, and I said, how much better? He goes, like 10% better. And I go, on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is bad, 5 is great, 3's in the middle. That means you got to be a 3.3. He goes, exactly. And to your point again, Joseph, he said, just use the guest's name. That bumps it up a little bit. Walk them to the front desk. Where's the restroom? Let me take you there. They don't go in with you, but they get you close enough that you're not going to get lost on the way there. Those are the little things. All right, we are out of time, and I love to ask the one thing question at the very end of every interview, and that is, what one last nugget of wisdom do you want to share? And I am going to specifically ask you to pull it from the new book.
Yeah. I think having watched how much just listening made a difference for so many patients, and really emphasizing and training to listening. I mean, even though we all think we can listen, they spend a lot of time training physicians to listen in healthcare. Wow, what a concept. And
Imagine if we trained everybody who interacts with a customer to truly listen. Doesn't need to be healthcare. It can be automotive. And by the way, automotive right now, given the world we're in, we're all worried about the tariffs increasing prices. We need to be listening to what that customer's pain is right now to help create a better experience for them.
Yeah, I think it really gets right down to, that detailed willingness to understand, listening for understanding, and then listening for empathy, listening for what does it mean to you? I mean, I understand the words, but what's that impact on your life and how can I help?
I
How
love
can
it.
I
And
be
I'm
here to
gonna I'm
assist?
gonna close with a trivia question for you. There was a great song. You probably don't even have to love music that much to remember this song, but it was written by Simon and Garfunkel. Do you remember what the words were? People hearing without
Listening. Yeah.
without listening, the sounds
Yeah.
of silence. Do you remember what movie it was in?
No way. I don't watch
It was
movies,
in
but
The
I listen to
Graduate
them.
with Dustin Hoffman.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, here's to you, Mrs. Robinson from Simon and
Yeah.
Garfunkel, which is what that whole story was about. But I love that song, People Hearing Without Listening, because that is exactly the opposite of what we want to achieve.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, Shep, you have listened to me for book after book. I'm so grateful to you. I am also grateful that you're listening using the surveys that you do and the research, the deep research that you do. You know, when you were spouting off numbers earlier, you sounded like AI actually. You had like your brain had
That
all
was
that
my AI
internalized.
brain.
But in reality, you care to help us understand people by really listening through data. And that is a refreshing thing because so much of what I hear people saying, particularly in the CX space, and I've now developed a master's degree program at Campbellsville University for a master's degree in CX. So I'm really into the academic side of this. You are putting academic rigor for us to actually understand what's happening out there in consumer behavior, as opposed to things that I see where people have just ripped it off of they put in a Google search of, what are 12 statistics that you should know about CX? Some of these things are like 30 years old, but they report them in their blogs and podcasts as if they're CX experts. So I'm really I'm grateful that you spend the money and the time to get us real data.
Well, thank you very much. I love it. It's not just a business for me, it's fun. And talking to you has been fun. This has been great. Thanks for coming back. And I can't wait for your next book for us to do this again. And I hope there is another book.
There's
So,
one more out there, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm like a bad penny, Shep. I keep coming back.
well, good. And I'm looking forward to it. It's a shiny penny for sure. Well, everybody, that wraps it up. Another episode of Amazing Business Radio. We will be back next week with another interview. Today, we've listened to Joseph Michelli talking about his latest book, All Business is Personal. I highly advise that you go to Amazon right now. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Not until you get this book. Anything Joseph has put out, you need to take a look at because they're all fine books with great case studies. You can tell I'm a huge fan and so happy he's on the show. We'll be back next week. Until that time, this is Shep Hyken reminding you to always be amazing.